Hello everyone, welcome to History and Culture. Wulong and Fengchu. With either one, the world could be pacified. For those familiar with the stories of the three kingdoms, this saying must not be unfamiliar. Among them, Mr. Wulong, Zhuge Liang, is almost a household name. While when it comes to Fengchu, most people might only know that his name was Pang Tong. Looking back at history, Pang Tong's life is truly lamentable. He possessed extraordinary talent. Otherwise he would not have been praised as someone comparable to Zhuge Liang, who was said to be almost demonically intelligent. Yet fate denied him the opportunity to fully display his talents. He died young, leaving endless regret in the mortal world. However, by tracing Pang Tong's life trajectory, we can not only reflect on our own destiny and opportunities, but also more clearly understand why Liu Bei ultimately could only divide the realm into three, rather than realize the great ambition of unifying the Central Plains. According to historical scholars, the Three Kingdoms era was a time of rising warlords and emerging heroes, with extraordinary talents revealing themselves one after another. Naturally, Pang Tong also hoped that his remarkable abilities could find a stage where he could fulfill his ambitions. Yet, because Pang Tong died young and did not leave behind distinguished achievements, some later generations believed that his talents were not truly outstanding. And some even questioned whether the title of Fengchu was merely a posthumous honor added by later admirers. But in fact, from the few surviving historical records, Pang Tong's talents were consistently evident and concretely validated. First, he and Zhuge Liang studied under the same master. Both apprenticed under Master Water Mirror, Sima Hui. And historical texts clearly state that Sima Hui greatly admired Pang Tong's abilities. Secondly, Pang Tong's performance after entering officialdom also demonstrated his exceptional capabilities. On a more detailed level, he was once appointed by Liu Bei as a county magistrate, a modest position. Yet Pang Tong was able to efficiently and precisely process a month's worth of backlogged documents within the time it takes to burn one stick of incense. This level of efficiency and competence impressed even Zhang Fei, who was known for his extremely high standards, prompting him to actively and vigorously recommend Pang Tong to Liu Bei. On a larger scale, Pang Tong played a significant role in Liu Bei's strategic plan to seize Sichuan. It is well known that Pang Tong ultimately died at Luofeng Slope, killed by the forces of Liu Zhang, the ruler of Sichuan at that time. Pang Tong's death became a legitimate reason for Liu Bei to launch a military campaign against Sichuan, thus providing the opportunity for Liu Bei to seize Ezhou and establish the framework for the tripartite division of China. Many historians even analyze that Pang Tong's death at Luofeng Slope was highly likely a deliberate sacrifice for the greater cause, helping Liu Bei justify his military action. This speculation not only highlights Pang Tong's wisdom and sense of responsibility, but also reveals his grand ambition and willingness to sacrifice his life for his ideals and for the greater good of the nation. Pang Tong died young, at the age of 35. And during his short life journey, he never truly had the chance to fully display his talents. In an era of warlords and the emerging tripartite division, Pang Tong chose to serve Liu Bei, who at the time was the weakest among the contenders. This choice itself was neither right nor wrong. Pang Tong valued Liu Bei's bloodline as a descendant of the Han Imperial family and his reputation for benevolence and virtue. However, objectively speaking, he did not, like Zhuge Liang, receive Liu Bei's complete trust and heavy responsibility. Moreover, Liu Bei was still in the early stages of his endeavors, with limited resources, making it difficult to provide Pang Tong with a broad enough stage to showcase his talents. Thus, to say that Pang Tong lived in frustration might be a bit heavy-handed. But it would not be an exaggeration to say that his position did not match his talents. It is worth mentioning that before his death, Pang Tong said, "Today my death is destined by heaven." which cannot help but evoke a sense of sorrow. In fact, this was not only a sigh over his personal fate, but also a profound insight into the situation of the time. Pang Tong knew in his heart that Liu Bei, throughout his life, would likely only be able to divide the realm into 3 parts with Cao Cao and Sun Quan, and could never truly unify the land. Of course, his fellow disciple Zhuge Liang had long understood this reality as well. Pang Tong's final words carried both reluctance and helplessness toward the turbulent times. Perhaps many people today find it difficult to understand Pang Tong's feelings. In their view, achieving a tripartite division was already an extraordinary accomplishment. But if we were to put ourselves in that era and experience the ideals cherished by the scholars and officials of the time, we would realize that for Pang Tong, Zhuge Liang, and other patriots and aspiring men, their pursuit was always the great cause of unifying the Central Plains and restoring the Han dynasty, never merely seeking to dominate a corner of the world. According to related historical records, Liu Bei established the Shu Han regime in Sichuan. At that time, transportation in Sichuan was extremely inconvenient, consisting mostly of mountainous paths, and communication was underdeveloped. To develop Shu's transportation and communication infrastructure, Liu Bei and Chancellor Zhuge Liang made tremendous efforts, especially in the establishment of the postal relay system, where they made significant contributions. First, the Shu Han regime set up a military base for the northern expeditions in the Hongzhang region, to open up critical supply lines. They developed 4 famous routes between Hongzhang and Guangzhong: the Ziwu Road, the Tangluo Road, the Baoxia Road, and the Golden Ox Road, Jinyo Dao. These 4 routes became vital hubs for Shu Han's external communications and military mobilizations. Secondly, the Shu Han regime established a key military pass in Hongzhang known as Baishui Pass. The surrounding mountains were dotted with beacon towers, where smoke signals could be sent during the day and fires lit at night to issue alarms, allowing for efficient communication. From Baishui Pass to the capital Chengdu, a distance of about 400 li, roughly 200 kilometers. Facilities such as pavilions and hostels were set up along the route to ensure the smooth operation of postal relays. Thirdly, in the Jingzhou region bordering eastern Wu, the General Guan Yu set up military communication installations along the Yangtze River. Through the network of beacon towers, the rear lines were connected with the front at Xiangfan, achieving rapid transmission of intelligence. It can be said that during that time, Shu Han maintained frequent communication, whether connecting north to Wei, east to Wu, or within its own territories. Historical records state that after the renowned scholar Su Jing became Grand Tutor of Shu Han, he still maintained correspondence with his old friends in the north, such as Wei officials Hua Xian and Wang Lang, renewing old ties through letters. The records of the 3 kingdoms note that Wang Lang once wrote to Su Jing, saying, "Last summer I sent a letter, but it was not delivered, now I send another, along with previous inquiries." In other words, even though letters were sometimes delayed due to wartime disruptions, people still persisted in maintaining communication. Additionally, the famous Wei official Chen Kun once wrote to Zhuge Liang, inquiring about the situation of Shu Han's Minister of Finance Liu Bei. The correspondence between Shu Han and Eastern Wu was even more frequent. A notable feature of Shu Han's postal system was that it almost never relied on carts to deliver mail. Instead, it mainly depended on postal couriers riding horses. Couriers personally rode to deliver letters because Sichuan's mountainous terrain, with its rough and twisting roads, was unsuitable for carts. In terms of governing the country, Liu Bei spared no effort. He understood well that the state was newly established and many sectors were in need of rebuilding. Thus, he ordered scholars familiar with rites and institutions, Su Ci, Hu Qian, Meng Guang, and Lai Min, to organize old documents and draft new regulations. Subsequently, after pacifying Yizhou, he assigned Zhuge Liang, Fa Zheng, E.G., Liu Bei, and Li Yan, to formulate Shu Han's own legal system, known as the Shu Code. Although the exact contents of the Shu Code have been lost, the records of the Three Kingdoms state that Shu Han enforced laws strictly and fairly, and the common people generally had no complaints. Some historians comment that, looking back at Liu Bei's arduous journey of founding a nation in Sichuan, it was truly a path full of hardship. He first made the 3 visits to the thatched cottage to invite Zhuge Liang, then went through the Battle of Red Cliffs and the fierce contest for Jingzhou before finally gaining a foothold in Yizhou. Yet even after taking Yizhou, he did not settle into comfort. He continued to reorganize the administration, repair infrastructure, perfect the legal system, open external communications, and strengthen border defenses. Even though he ultimately failed to achieve the great cause of unification, Liu Bei's sense of responsibility and indomitable spirit remain worthy of admiration and remembrance by future generations. This is the History and Culture channel. Liking and subscribing are the greatest help and support to us. Thank you everyone, and see you in the next time.